Good evening, everybody. It's October 7, 2024, and this is a regular meeting of the Moscow City Council. Bryce.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Please stand if you're able and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you all. First up tonight is the consent agenda, and the consent agenda consists of items that are routine or non-controversial and have been previously vetted by members of the Administrative Committee or the Public Works and Finance Committee.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
And seconded. Discussion? Okay, Haley.
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
Gina.
Aye.
Julia.
Aye.
Bryce.
Aye.
Okay, great. Moving on, next up is public comment and mayor's response period. And for 15 minutes, in 3-minute long increments, we invite members of the public to pop up to the podium, tell us your name, tell us where you're from, and give us an idea of what's on your mind, as long as it's not on tonight's agenda, nor pending before Planning and Zoning Commission or the Board of Adjustment. Who are the takers for tonight? Okay, no takers. Oh, we got one. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, you have to step lively here.
Happy to be here this evening. My name is Kent Salisbury. I'm a resident of Moscow, Idaho.
Pop up the microphone just a little bit there. Great, thank you.
Yeah, my name is Kent Salisbury, and I wanted to compliment you on your delegation to Washington, D.C., and give you all the congratulations for the fine voice you brought to the nation's capital. Thank you, Mayor. And as well, that the graffiti I spoke of previously had been painted over in 3 or 4 days after I talked to the City Trails Commission at the farmer's market a couple weeks back when they had a tent. I talked to the guy. He was very concerned. He knew it was an issue for the well-being of the trail, and it was painted over only a few days after that.
Great.
There's a few things on my mind. I really honestly would have wished that the graffiti could have been taken care of sooner. Like, I'm not all too familiar with the entire complaint process for addressing the city council. I mean, I had the opportunity to find out about it, how it works, and I started that to build upon my own legal basis for court filing here in Latah County before the district court judge, Megan Marshall. And I honestly believe when I addressed city council and said, you know, that graffiti was a problem, that you guys would hear me right on that spot, and then, you know, call the people that could take care of it immediately. You know, that's why I thought city council would work most effectively, being the everyday citizen that I am. And so it was the least bit disappointing to find that it took nearly 3 years to get that graffiti covered. I did my best. I'm a busy man myself. I've got things going on. I've got to, you know, go to work and all that, provide for my own self-interest and well-being. But, you know, it's an important factor about some larger concerns here in town that I encountered from my high school in my hometown of Springfield, Illinois, from some persons who had attended school here in town back in early 2001 and lived here in private residence about that time, and then and ended up talking about that graffiti before I even saw it, and then talked about the former mural that I felt necessary to paint on because it was a storied metaphor for how these persons from my high school premeditatedly murdered my sister. and their romantic notion about it. And I had heard about that mural before I even saw it. And now there's a new mural up. I think it's a wonderful mural. You know, it has living creatures, and it's not a metaphoric story of any kind. You know, it's very objective. And so when I went to court to face my charges for defacing the mural, the district court judge, Megan Marshall, declared that I was gravely disabled to a circumstance in my life because I had related to the judge at that time how it was a long-term perchance from my early childhood and other things, and she immediately understood, and I really would like to give her a lot of credit for hearing me out and coming to a just conclusion about all that. I had a difficult time, working it out with city council before that incident happened on my own fault. I mean, I did mention that mural at city council as well, that I thought was incorrect. I didn't know exactly how to address it through a more legal option. And then, yes, sir. I tried to contact the city attorney and other things, and it was really difficult for me. And it just, worked out that way. And I apologize. But yes, at this time, I am planning further court documentation surrounding a larger state issue here in the state of Idaho. I just wanted to let you know, I hope I'm not impertinent or disrespectful at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Always keep in mind, government moves at the pace of continental drift. So,
Indeed.
it is not as fast as any of us would like, but thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Okay. Hearing none, we go on to the festive presentation of the proceeds from the Mayor's Golf Tournament. And we have Amanda Argona, our events coordinator, here to tell us about what we got going.
Evening, Mayor and Council and city staff. So we had this scheduled, but there was some bouts of sickness, so this is a little bit delayed for the Mayor's Golf Tournament this year. But I am pleased to share that this year's tournament proceeds are just under $2,000 and the exact amount of $1,939.32. Like in previous traditions, the recipient is usually selected and then receives the proceeds for 2 years in a row. And so the proceeds will be going to Inland Oasis's West Side Food Pantry. And in particular, I do want to recognize 4 sponsors this evening. 2 of our larger sponsors for the event were Mead and Hunt and Idaho Central Credit Union. But the other 2 sponsors I want to recognize, according to our records, have been donating to this event almost since the inception, which hit a 10-year mark this year. So since about 2016, Latah Credit Union and the Corner Club have consistently donated and sponsored to this event. So we want to thank you in particular for their accomplishments. But without further ado, I would love to invite Mayor Becky, Tyler Ochoa with the Recreation Division, and Laura Perigo with Community Events to present this year's prop check and actual real monies to Megan Stedman with Inland Oasis.
Big check.
Thank you for this check. It's going to go a long way to help us continue to feed our locals that need it most. Westside Food Pantry has been open for just about 4 years now, And we're feeding about 650 families a month. So, yeah, these funds will definitely go a long way to help keep us going. So, thank you.
Nice.
Check, that's awesome.
So next year, the recipient of the proceeds from the golf tournament, Switch. So we'll be thinking of another good nonprofit to receive those proceeds. The event is a lot of fun. It's kind of a centerpiece for a lot of people in town, and it does some good for some organizations that do good for the rest of us here in town. Next up, we have the Citizens Commission report for the Parks and Rec Commission. David Schott, Kat Harner presenting. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Betke. Members of council, thank you so much for having us tonight. So tonight I'd like to welcome back Kat Harner, the chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Kat has been with the Parks and Recreation Commission since 2022. She's also a brave soul and a teacher at Moscow Charter School. And so with that, she'll be giving you our annual report this year. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kat.
Welcome, Kat.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mayor Betke, council, and staff. So here we have the annual report for the Moscow Parks and Rec Commission. Here are a couple of our members. I'm Kat Harner. I'm over there on the left. Gretchen Hayes, she's the vice chair over there. Supporting us tonight, we have Susan Steele, who's been on since 2003. Ted Keisha, he's pretty involved with the community garden since 2004. Mark Heinlein, he's our big Bee City USA guy, which you'll hear a little bit more about. Richard Gaylor, 2021. Jeff Pilcher, I believe he said he drank most of what was in that, probably mineral water. Robert, I don't know where he was in that picture, but 2023, and Sally Green is one of our newer members. So the purpose of the commission, I'll try not to read directly from this too much. I had a teacher tell me that we're not supposed to do that, but I'm a little nervous, so I might do it a little bit. We take matters that affect the city, right, in our lovely area here, playgrounds, athletic fields, recreation, and the facilities. That's part of the reason why I joined. I have 4 kids, and this is something near and dear to my heart. We recommend long and short-term improvements to these things, recreation, cultural needs of everybody. We want to make sure people are happy, and we like to hear from people just like you guys. We have our 15 minutes where we like to hear from the community. The commission has the authority. We make recommendations to you guys regarding all these policies, programs, personnel, budget, all those exciting things people like to talk about. A big subcommittee that we have is Bee City USA, which has been very successful. They've been receiving grants and working hard all over Moscow to make sure that people are learning about different pollinating plants that we can use to help our community and our gardens around. They've had different things to raise money, such as pubbing in the patio, to also spread awareness of these things. And it's been really exciting to see all the things that they've been doing in our community. You've probably seen some of their little pollinator gardens around town. They've been working very hard. So every year we have a pesticide-free park, Triangle Park, formerly known as, was it Westgate Park, I think? Eastgate, sorry. Triangle Park, it was our pesticide-free park this year. And you see there that the Rotary Club, that park, they have another planter around there that's also kind of, I think they have a pollinator plot there, but they have a peace pole, which was kind of a cool addition to that. We went to the farmer's market a couple of times this year. Our first push for the June 8th was to get more people in the community involved with coaching and such as that, because a lot of times we have some delays because people love signing up their kids for things here, and that's great, but we need more coaches and people involved. So that was our big push for the farmer's market, and just to get more people involved. We've got a lot of cool programs within that brochure that we send out electronically now. And we want to get people more involved. We've got adult and youth programs in there that are great to look at. Some exciting things that are happening. So we are hoping to have some pickleball courts put on Mountain View Park, so that has been included in our capital improvement plan. Pickleball has been really taken off, as I'm sure everybody knows in here, and it's cool to see that we have to expand. So that'll be exciting to see when that comes into play. Something that we've been working on is hoping to get some sponsorship for some of these programs. I think when we put the pickleball program into the capital improvement plan, I think it's something like 10 years down the road. So we're hoping that some of these programs, like, we can get sponsorship and get them moving so we can get people moving. We always do an annual tour of different parks. We have so many parks in the area, and so it's always exciting to see the hard work that Dave puts into improving all those, and seeing some of these new playgrounds that we've put into make happen. So that's part of our annual tour. We met with some members of City Council and Parks and Recreation and other user groups such as the Moscow Baseball Association, the rugby people, with that athletic user group to kind of come together and figure out how we're going to use these fields so that everybody can use them in a safe and appropriate manner. And we also always like to hear from people, and we compiled a commission survey, and we kind of went over those to see what we can be doing to help the people of Moscow. Dave found this cool photo. I can't remember when. It's East City Park. I can't remember from what the year. I think Dave's in the back there somewhere.
Savage.
Yeah. So, sorry, I spoke, I think, a million miles a minute. I actually have a Park and Rec softball game tonight, so I might take off right after this. But if you guys have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you.
Gina?
I've kind of, you can go ahead and go to your softball
Oh, no,
game,
it's
Kat,
okay.
if you want to. I don't want to,
No, it's 8:45. It's
oh,
a
good.
terrible
Okay.
time at night.
All right, well, you're good. The question I have was the pesticide-free parks. Does it rotate around, or once you become a pesticide-free park, are you one forever?
Yes, please.
Councilor Trudeau, great question. So this rotates annually. So I think
Okay.
we began, we've had Anderson Frontier Park, we've had Kiwanis Park, we've had Triangle Park. I think those are the three, and then there'll be a new one coming into next year as well. So
Okay, okay.
Can I ask a follow-up to that? Don't go too far away. How has that been going?
it's been going well. We like to give the public or anybody with pesticide sensitivities an option. So any park that's going to be included in that, it's going to include a playground as well. And then we'll bounce it around, and I think it's a good program. So.
Thanks.
It's pesticides and herbicides, right? It's like a no chemical park.
It excludes fertilizer.
It excludes fertilizer.
Yeah, but any of your herbicides, fungicides, pesticides. When they say pesticides, it's kind of a bigger umbrella.
Yeah.
Yep.
Be interesting to see if there's any lasting effect from being pesticide-free, you know, kind of looking at the parks afterwards, and if there's less that you would apply, or do they go immediately back into the old method of?
Generally, we have to play a little bit of catch-up, but it's good to give
interesting.
people an option, right? And so that's why we're do it annually, so parks can go in and catch up the next year, and then so it's a rotating thing. So overall, we're reducing pesticides, but there's a little bit of catch-up.
Afterwards. Okay, cool, thank you.
He means he uses ketchup as a pesticide, sorry. Bad joke. Strike that from the minutes, Lori, sorry, that wasn't that
How
funny.
much does a pickleball court cost?
That's a great question. I'm going through the CIP right now to get ready to submit that, based on the Parks and Recreation recommendation, to submit that into the capital improvement plan. Limiting the expectations, as we discussed with that group, it might be a 10, 15-year type window. I need to pull the actuals off that, but I thought we were in the neighborhood of about 180,000 at Gormley Park, if I recall.
Thank you.
I really like the Bee City initiative, and I like that that's a tantamount aspect of what the Parks and Rec does. What is required to be a Bee City? What are some of the parameters that are necessary for that?
Oh, thank you for the question. I'm going to have to pull out some cobwebs off the old Google here a little bit. But if I recall, one of the big things is having a board or a subcommittee. And so we had formed that through council's approval to form that Bee City USA subcommittee, with the parent commission being the Parks and Recreation Commission. And so that was one of the big requirements. We've got to do an annual report. So there's a few others I just don't recall right off the top of my head.
That's okay. Yeah.
Focus on pollination and pollinators and stuff.
I would imagine like the amount of foliage to pollinate? It must be like a requirement, like a certain standard amount, right? I'm just speculating here, but.
That's correct. I think, I'm not sure if it's a requirement or a very strong suggestion, but they like you in your annual report to have some sort of pollinator type event. So Mark Heinlein with our Parks and Recreation Commission has been very active out at Harvest Park, where we've got a great area that doesn't make a good spot for public to access edible fruits and nuts, but it's a great spot for pollinators adjacent to it. We call it the dog leg. It's kind of steeper. And so he's had some volunteer projects out there that we've been counting those towards our annual report.
Nice, thank you.
One thing that they also do, I'd like to add, is they provide a lot of education opportunities too. And so I myself am a Texas transplant, so I don't know what great pollinators are around here. And so they provide educational material for people like me that want to introduce that in my own yard and point them out to my own kids. And so I think that's a really valuable thing too that they do, that they provide.
Nice, thanks.
Great, thank you. Come back again next year.
Perfect, sounds good, it's a date.
And good luck tonight.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, next up is the Wild Rose Court final plat and final PUD. Mike Ray.
Evening, Your Honor, Counsel. So before you tonight is just the council's review of the Wild Rose Court Edition final plat and final PUD. Just a little bit of background. So it's a 2.53 acre area of land generally located east of the current terminus of Wild Rose Drive. Included a subdivision plat, a PUD, from 16 lots ranging from 3,000 square feet to 10,666 square feet in size, served by a private street, as well as a pathway connection to the northwest serving Hampton Court pathway, and then an open space parcel to the northwest as well. Also included as part of the subdivision and plat were the annexation of the 2.53 acre property, retaining the current comp plan land use designation of auto urban residential, and rezoning from the R1 to the R2 zone. And that was approved by council on May 6, 2024, as well as the preliminary plat and the PUD with 6 conditions. And then on August 13th of this year, the applicant submitted the final subdivision plat and final PUD to be reviewed by the commission as well as the council. So just to refamiliarize yourself with the property, highlighted in red at the center of your screen, Ridgeview Estates Second Edition is directly to the west of the property. You can see Flomer Lane there to the north, Lundquist, and then Highway 8 to the south. The subdivision, Ridgeview Estates Second Edition, is currently in Phase 3, and they've recently connected to the highway system via Roxbury Drive. But there is Wild Rose Drive that's currently stubbed to the subject property, which gives it street access as well as Flomer Lane there to the north. So this is the final plat that's been submitted by the applicant. You can see Wild Rose Drive extending into Wild Rose Circle, transitioned from a public street to a private street. So a 28-foot wide street with parking on one side. Does a circle around the property. This is the open space parcel, which is part of the density bonus as part of the PUD. And then there's a parkland dedication, a pathway here to the northwest that it connects to Hampton Court pathway, which will extend to that street. You can see a stormwater detention pond located to the south of the property, located here. And this is the PUD site plan, gives you a little bit better of an idea of the building footprint, street layout, pathway to the northwest, and a little bit of landscaping. One of the conditions on the original plat was a landscape plan be submitted on individual lots as well as a stormwater detention pond at the entrance. And so this is what the applicant submitted in regards to that, just fulfilling that requirement. And then the original elevation, so nothing's changed in this regard. Essentially nothing's changed with the site plan either, except for an increase in some easement widths per vista. So this is the front elevation of the typical building that'd be constructed here. Side elevation, and then rear elevation. These are conceptual images looking at the front of the structures. And then there's a few different sample building floor plans. I'm just going to go through level, essentially option A here. So this is the lower level, double complex car garage, as well as a rec room leading to the stairs, a little bit of laundry facilities there. And then the main level, we've got living, dining area, as well as a kitchen and a outside raised deck, bathroom as well. And then the upper floor contains 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, a little bit of open area to the space below as well, and the stairs. So the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the final subdivision plat and PUD at their meeting August 28th of this year. They recommended approval to City Council with no conditions. Staff's recommendation is the council approve the Wild Rose Court addition final plat and final PUD with no conditions. And I'd certainly be able to answer any questions you had.
Any questions, councilors?
Have any?
I'm going to say something. I said this in Public Works and Finance, but I just want to be transparent on the record. This was at the preliminary stages, and I'm new to council. I was sworn in January, so this whole process to be part of, especially this Wild Rose Court subdivision, it was new to me in this state, and it was interesting to kind of be part of and learn from this process. Where in the preliminary stages, I voted no on a couple of recommendations, but it was overridden by the votes that came from council. And so it's been interesting to learn the process and see how it moves forward. And so here tonight, even though I had voted no back in May when I think it came to us, if I'm remembering correctly, seeing how the process works and hearing how voices and how the process works, you know, it now ends up here where the same in Public Works and Finance where I voted to approve it. I'm intending to do the same. I just wanted to kind of state that openly for the record and for the public, and just be commendable to the work that the staff has done and from how and what I've learned in the past 4 or 5 months with this particular subdivision. So just wanted to state that for everyone.
Sounds a lot like a motion.
I'll motion that we approve Wild Rose Court addition, final plat, and final PUD, or take other action. Or I will say the first part. I will approve. I motion that we approve the Wild Rose Court addition, final plat, and final PUD.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. You can choose.
Julia can have it, that's fine.
So, okay. Given that, let's go. Julia,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
Okay, great. So the final plat is approved. Great. Mike doesn't get to go anywhere because for the next one, we have a public hearing for the SOMO annexation, comprehensive plan land use designation, zoning designation, and preliminary plat. And the way that public hearings work is I open the public hearing, staff presents the fundamentals of the issues at hand. Council can ask questions of Mike. After Mike gets done, the applicant can come up and provide some testimony and have a few questions perhaps. After that, the public testimony in favor of this application is received, followed by testimony in opposition, followed by testimony of a general nature. After that, the applicant can have a rebuttal. Following that, the public hearing is closed and the council deliberates towards a decision. So with all of that, we're open. Mike,
Thank you
you're
again,
on.
Your Honor. Before you tonight, we have the SOMO annexation, comp plan designation, zoning designation, and preliminary subdivision plat. So this is the subject property, about 51 acres in size, outlined in red at the center of your screen. You can see Highway 95 flanked to the west there. This is the current city limits boundary with the green dash line. The most recent annexation being the portion of the Fountains Industrial Park here to the north, primarily surrounded by agricultural land here to the east. We got the South Fork of the Palouse River to the north of the subject property, as well as Fountains property, airstrip to the north. SEL is located here to the west. Wasson-Carey building lot is located to the south. Then you have various other commercial residential uses on the west side of Highway 95, prime land being one of those.
Could you go back to one and just point out what the new entrance of US 95?
Yeah, I think I have a better image later on, but essentially you can see the right-of-way lines here coming north into the city.
Okay.
And eventually around here will be the intersection of Old 95 and New 95 as it heads down Old 95. So I think I have an image later on that shows a little bit of the alignment.
Thank you.
So the applicant's 2GM LLC, they're proposing those 4 actions we just discussed. It's a 51.53 acre property. And the first is annexation of that property. Second's comp plan land use designation. Currently, a combination of auto, urban, commercial, industrial, and rural and agricultural, and the proposal is just auto, urban, commercial. Zoning designations currently combination of motor business and ag forest, and that's just strictly motor business is the proposal. And then the preliminary plat is 29.46 acres, creating 15 lots ranging from .82 to 4.18 acres in size, referred to as the SOMO subdivision. Just a closer view of that property. And then the different ownership. So originally, it was just this property, the 21 acre property, or 29 acre, excuse me. So the applicant owns this property as well as a property to the north here. This is ITD right-of-way. This is another property that the gentleman was going to go through annexation request at some point in the future, so we included that property as well. And then with the annexation of this area, it was going to create an island for the southern portion of prime land. So we worked with the ownership with prime land in order to annex that property as well. And so really we just started out the original property and then expanded just to be contiguous with the city limits boundary and bring in the additional ITD right-of-way as well. Brings us to the current comp plan, land use designation of the property. Like I mentioned before, really 3 designations. And the proposal would just strictly be the auto, urban, commercial designation. So fairly consistent with all properties to the west, south, and to the north. That's the industrial designation there to the east in purple. So taking a look at what the comp plan says about auto, urban, commercial. It's intended to provide for commercial services and developments that are motor vehicle oriented or those which require large amounts of land. Those areas should be located adjacent to existing commercial developments and along major arterials where vehicle traffic can be accommodated. And developments with these designations should be required to provide significant landscaping, which would be applied to enhancing areas along the street edge, screening parking lots, and buffering adjacent uses. And then it points to the motor business zone as being the most appropriate for that designation, which brings us to the current zoning configuration of the area. Large swaths of motor business, that's kind of the light yellow shade there. Subject property is currently a combination, does include some motor business, but it's primarily ag forest currently. SEL to the west, that entire property is motor business, Fountains motor business. Property to the north of the subject property is motor business as well. Industrial for another portion of Fountains, and then ag forest here in the county to the east. So the proposal would be just strictly motor business for the entire property. So looking at what the zoning code says about the motor business zone, it's intended to provide for the location and grouping of compatible uses having similar operation as they involve enterprises which depend primarily on transit motor vehicle-based trade. By concentrating such uses, the city intends to increase public convenience when utilizing those services, and within the regulation allows such activities to render the maximum service. And then really just a wide variety of uses allowed in that zone, you know, wide variety of commercial all the way to residential uses. So it brings us to the preliminary plat for SOMO subdivisions, 29.46 acres. 15 lots are being proposed, ranging from that .82 to 4.18. There's 2 stormwater detention tracks, as well as a pedestrian connection to the north and to the south. Motor business zone has no minimum lot size or width requirements. And this kind of gives you an idea of that future intersection with Highway 95. And so you can see the right-of-way coming in. This is by the silos here for prime land, and so this will ultimately be the new 95 and old 95 intersection. And this eastern segment here is intended to provide a public street to this proposed subdivision. So that would be Somo Drive. So this is the plat, 15 lots. You can see there's a portion here to the north, and we'll have zoomed in views here in a second, but there's parkland dedication requirement, and it's being entirely dedicated along the South Fork of the Palouse River within the floodway. This is to accommodate a future pathway that we have in our Pathways Master Plan that goes along the river. So Somo Drive extends into the property and then terminates here to the east, allows for continuation of that street as the property to the south and to the east develops at some point in the future. So just a zoomed-in view, this is the west portion of the subdivision. There is a pedestrian and utility easement that's intended to connect, so this is the one connecting to the south of the subject property. You can see all the contour lines, so it is a little bit challenging topography as you lay flat building lots out, you know, pretty much all around the subdivision down to the river. This is the eastern portion, so that's one of the stormwater detention ponds here to the northeast. And this would be the second pedestrian pathway which connects to the park property here to the north. So Somo Drive is proposed to be a collector street, 34-foot wide street section with bike lanes and no parking on the street, includes curb gutter sidewalks on both sides. Water service is proposed to be extended from the existing mains near the entrance of the subdivision. It goes all the way through Somo Drive to the eastern property boundary. 2012 Comprehensive Water System Plan indicates existing system has adequate potable and fire flows. Sanitary sewer, like with the water service, the mains currently exist near the entrance to the subdivision and proposed to be extended via Somo Drive. And then the 2011 Comprehensive Sewer System Plan indicates the existing system's adequate to serve the additional flow. Storm sewer is going to be piped and directed to two of the stormwater detention ponds. One was just right to the north of the entrance of Somo Drive. Those are located within the proposed subdivision. Of course, it'll need to meet Moscow's stormwater runoff control standards, which require the stormwater to be detained at the pre-development rate. And then the stormwater is ultimately conveyed to, from the detention facilities to the South Fork of the Palouse River. So parkland dedication, there's 23.68 acres of net developable land. The motor business zone, which is the proposal, requires 9% dedication, so that equates to 2.13 acres of dedication required. The applicants proposed 1.83 acres of parkland, like we had pointed out before, located along the floodway of the South Fork of the Palouse River for a future pathway, as well as $4,050 in parkland dedication in lieu of fees to satisfy the remainder of the parkland dedication requirement. And the Parks and Rec Commission did review this January 26th of last year, and they considered staff's recommendation to accept the applicant's proposal, and they voted to recommend approval of the combination of the land and the in lieu fees to satisfy the parkland requirement. So it gives you a better idea where the parkland is and the pathways. The pathways are in blue there, and then the parkland is in green. The Planning and Zoning Commission did conduct a public hearing for the proposed comp plan designation, rezone, and preliminary plat on May 24th of last year. They recommended approval with 2 conditions. Staff recommends the council conduct the public hearing upon the annexation, comp plan, land use designation, zoning designation, and preliminary plat, and upon consideration of any testimony presented. Approve the annexation ordinance under suspension of the rules, requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and then it be read by title, published by summary. Then if the annexation ordinance is approved, approve the proposed comp plan land use designation resolution and adopt P&Z's RCS statement. And then if the annexation ordinance is approved, comp plan land use designation resolutions approved, approve the proposed zoning ordinance under suspension of the rules, and adopt Planning and Zoning Commission's RCS document. And then if all those aforementioned actions are approved, approve the preliminary plat for Somo Edition with the following 2 conditions. So these are the same ones that are recommended by Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as adopt P&Z's RCS document. And the 2 conditions are the applicant shall be required to conduct a detailed stormwater discharge analysis to include any mitigation actions necessary to ensure that the stormwater facility shall have no downstream adverse impacts subject to the approval of the city engineer. And then the applicant gain access approval from the Idaho Transportation Department and complete any necessary mitigation for the connection of Somo Drive to the highway system. Mouthful. So I'd certainly be able to answer any questions you have.
Gina?
Will you go back to that final image, please, and show me where the second stormwater detention thing is?
Yeah.
I saw the one at the north.
It's very small. It's just located here to the north.
Okay.
I think we probably have a zoomed-in view somewhere. I can-
No, that's okay. I mean, I got the general gist of it. I appreciate it.
Julia?
Along that line, so some of the lots are within the 100-year floodplain of the South Fork of the Palouse. So how do we, sorry, I'm having a hard time forming my question. Who makes sure that the grading there is appropriate for the floodplain and that it's not adversely impacting the South Fork of the Palouse? I understand that the stormwater detention area is going to be overseen by the city engineer. What about the grading of those lots and how do we just make sure that it doesn't have an impact? Is it DEQ or is it us? Or?
It'd be staff or our department. Yeah, floodplain development permits required, and so we'd review the development of each of those properties as well as the subdivision. So the floodway is contained. There's no fill or grading within the floodway area, and so that's a requirement of our ordinance. 100-year floodplain, you're allowed to fill within that area, and I would assume that based upon floodplain elevation data, base flood elevation data, that these lots would be 2 feet above the base flood elevation. And so, that's a requirement of our code for residential properties. Commercial properties have the options to be wet flood proofed, or they can be elevated as well. But oftentimes, if there's mass grading, they would just raise the property 2 feet above the base flood elevation so they don't have to, they aren't concerned with wet flood proofing in the future.
Okay, thank you.
I have a few, and feel free to tell me if this is better suited for a different segment of this hearing process. First question, this block 2, lot 3 at the very bottom of the screen. So is the expected plat going to get access straight from the new 95, and then this grading you said was part of the parkland dedication satisfaction with like a stairwell, or am I misunderstanding how you're going to get access to this block 2, lot 3?
It's 40 feet wide, so there's a flagpole access portion. So no access will be off of 95, so ITD won't allow that. And you can see the topography here, so it'd be challenging anyway.
Yeah.
The only point of access for all these lots is going to come off of Somo Drive. There just happens to be a utility and pedestrian easement.
Okay.
That shares this flagpole portion. As you can see, this is about the only kind of relative grade that you can get up to this property to the south. And so that's what the applicant chose as the ideal location to run a utility and pathway easement.
Okay, that helps. And then I was just going to state for our avid viewers in the room and at home, I was not putting 2 and 2 together that SOMO was a portmanteau of South Moscow Business Park. So I kept looking to see what SOMO stood for as an acronym, and I was getting some very confusing medical terminology agencies, and that's not what it was. I have a question, and this is, I promise it's a well-meaning question, Mike. I'm trying to understand what took so long as far as I'm seeing some of these things were dated, received 2022. Is it tied to just ITD timeline hurdles for the applicant, or is there anything that we needed to do differently on our side?
We're just working through the ITD
Okay.
permitting process to get access.
I kind of figured.
Public street access.
Okay. And then I have 2 last questions, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay. I'm trying to visualize if we have a different business park-esque area in town that has bike lanes but doesn't have on-street parking. I'm a little nervous that with some of these lots being this small, depending on what kind of motor business we may be seeing occupy those spaces, that while I agree that we prioritize bike access and bike lane infrastructure, I'm just trying to visualize if we have something else similar in town that would be more motor business. I mean, Almond, maybe? I can't even.
A and Warbonnet comes to mind.
Yeah, okay.
You know, kind of larger lot. I mean, they're both arterials, so wouldn't include parking on either side of the street, so it'd be similar to that.
And I'm trying to understand if some of these smaller lots, like these 1 acre lots, I mean, that would be like, I'm picturing like a dentist office with a handful of parking spots and that would be enough, but I'm just trying to make sure that if we're going with no on-street parking, I don't want to put in bike infrastructure and then have tenants or have our applicant have a hard time selling because for some reason the parking spillover is going to be a problem. So that's verbally processing through this dilemma. If staff feels comfortable with it and what's called planning and zoning feels comfortable, then I'm less nervous. And then my last question, in the staff report, we talk a lot about like the utilities being wastewater, the storm water and incoming water. I'm used to utilities also including like power conversations. Is the onus to make sure that power as needed to be run to these new lots, is that on the city or is that strictly on the applicant to work with Avista to meet like power infrastructure needs at these locations?
The applicant, the city, working with Avista.
Okay.
To get power to the property.
Okay.
A lot of it has to do with easement widths, you know, so we have to make sure that Avista is going to be accommodated there. They can fit their equipment and serve the property. So, yeah, obviously we work with Avista and the applicant.
Okay, cool. I think that's all my questions for now, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
So might be time for more when things finish out, but for now, would the applicant like to make any comments?
My name's Jeff Motley, and boy, it seems like it was eons ago when we were at the Planning Commission getting started on this project. And you know, it's really well timed right now because I'm sure everybody's been to the south end of Moscow and sees the new highway heading up where it goes. And you know, I just kind of go back to when we first looked at this piece of property that was for sale. And I'm a contractor and you know, we look through a lot of drawings and you begin to understand what something's going to look like when it gets developed. And we had the drawings for the new highway, well, it was 3 years ago now at this point, I guess. And I kind of saw how it's really, really nice the way the highway comes, I guess I would say softly down into South Moscow. And this piece of property was available for sale and it just seemed like it was going to have some really great exposure to the highway, is what it amounts to, which, you know, motor businesses want to be in the area where they're seen, for sure. And, you know, since we started this 3 years ago, we have a lot of interest in a lot of services that would be great for Moscow, I believe. I still have the same vision. It is going to really be a bit of a spectacle, I think. I think it's going to show very, very well. And it's going to do some great things for South Moscow. There's no doubt. I did want to touch on the idea that we are not doing any grading in the flood area. There's a couple of terms there, and I don't really understand what they mean, but you know, that's a no-go zone. It's that green area up there. There's just no grading, no filling, no whatever. Yeah, and I'd field any. Yeah, it was a year and a half ago almost. We were with the Planning Commission. We've been working with the State of Idaho Department of Transportation for a long time, and we finally have everything put together. And it looks to me like everything I understand that the new entrance is going to be paved and ready to go this fall, and hopefully we can get this thing. I don't know that we could get started on it this fall. It's getting too late, but it's sure something we'd like to start on in the spring if we could. And I'd love to answer any questions you might have.
I'm hoping this question makes sense since I wrote it down ahead of time.
Sure.
So an extension of my previous question, I'm trying to understand if the power and utility needs on the south side of town with the extended growth are ready, or if that's gonna be a bunch of work for you and Avista and the city to make sure whoever, because I'm trying to visualize if motor business is likely not gonna be big power users, I would imagine, not like industrial, but
We met with Avista shortly after the planning commission meeting, and, and they told us they had ample power for what we wanted to do.
Cool.
It sounds as though it's gonna come from the west side of the new US 95, and we have to get it across the road, but yeah, they saw no issues whatsoever.
cool, thank you.
And luckily enough, there was 2 different internet companies that could provide from that spot as well.
Nifty.
Yeah.
I'm good for now.
Okay, good enough. Don't run off. Might be time for rebuttal later.
Okay.
So,
Shelley wants to-
Shelley, are you doing two? Okay, go for it.
Hello, I'm Shelley Bennett, 2279 Mosier Street in Moscow, and I work for Kimley Haygood Company. I needed to take that moment so people knew how to say it.
Kaimla, yeah, I've been
It
going
was,
Kaimla
people
in
have
my
been
head.
confused for years now. I've worked with people over the years in Moscow, and we've desperately needed a business park. We have not had a business park offered to Moscow for 30, 40 years. I mean, Nursery Street was the last business park in Moscow. Alturas, a different level of business park. But we have people that have been standing in line, and just so you know, it's more the people that are looking to do something on their own, small businesses, like small storage buildings or companies that need to build larger buildings. But it is a business park, not an industrial park. Our focus is on small businesses. And so I would hope that you would approve this opportunity for Moscow. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Okay, at this time, public testimony in favor of this. Any of the 4 aspects for consideration? Okay, testimony in opposition.
General comment?
Well, after we get done with the opposition part, next up is general, so I guess we should just go there. So,
David Hall, 1334 Wallen Road, Moscow. Mayor and City Council, I'm always worried about the declining aquifer. And we have water now, which has always been stated in these type of hearings. But I think the city should be concerned about water usage for all of the annexations and upcoming possible uses with the declining aquifer. So I think we really need to take a look at what water might be used and eventually have some kind of a water budget of how much can be used for different developments.
okay. Thank you, David. Further testimony of a general nature? Okay, hearing none. Anything for the applicant to have any further comment? Nope. That was pretty emphatic. Okay, at this point, the public hearing is closed, and council deliberate, please. And remember, we're on 4 different sets of deliberation.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more question for Mike.
Sure.
/ staff at large. How much remaining land do we have in the comprehensive plan that is or currently set aside for industrial as we grow? And/or is the easier question, like, what are the conditions that led us to set aside those spaces for industrial use and picturing things being far away from residential. But my question pertains to, I think, the part that talks about the rezoning it into strictly motor business. So yeah, so how much purple do we have hanging out on the peripherals of town? Is this our last kind of pocket of industrial zoning on the immediate peripheral?
Yeah, as far as I know, I mean, it's always been a goal of the council and the city to transition those historical, agricultural industrial uses to the south end of town. And so that's at the area we've indicated here with industrial. The subject property is 51 acres in size. So, you're probably looking at 150 acres we have designated as industrial there. I mean, motor business is very similar to industrial.
Right.
I mean, they're very similar zones. The only use that motor business doesn't allow that industrial does is heavy industrial. And so it's
Okay.
not likely that we're going to have like a heavy industrial use.
Like a gravel pit
come in.
trying to
Yeah.
be operational right there, okay.
So it really gives the most flexibility while also allowing those industrial uses. And so that's why the applicant chose to go with a motor business zone. And we certainly discussed that on the onset about what's going to be the most appropriate zoning classification, and that was it.
Yeah, and just to clarify, since this is the public deliberation part, and I know we've received some feedback by email that we don't often deliberate thoroughly enough in this setting, I want to make sure that we're meeting the immediate market's needs, and so it's cool to hear that there is some interest that the applicant's already getting for motor business, and that's great. I'd hate for us to be in a situation where either the city or the county is like, we miss an industrial opportunity someplace, somewhere, where we end up trying to fit it somewhere that it doesn't, it shouldn't be. So I just want to make sure if we're moving with intention by carving out a little bit of that industrial piece to be motor business, that I understand the big picture. So that's what I got.
But
Gina.
it's interesting, oh, sorry.
If I can respond to Haley's concern, and having practiced economic development in our community for back when I had dark hair, Shelley and I both. It is probably a 3-to-1 ratio, maybe a 5-to-1 ratio of demand for
Motor business.
that kind of
Yeah.
space. Like, pinch me, it's so needed. The industrial, if you note, is near if we do have that kind of demand. But I will tell you, the limiting factor there will most likely be power. At that point, were it to be a heavy industrial.
Yeah.
This kind of thing is
Cake.
perfect for that area.
Cool.
Julia?
Oh, I was just going to say, it's interesting that SEL is located in motor business, and it's kind of light industrial, so clearly it works to have
Yeah.
some industrial within that zone. But I just want to say, I think this is a great use of space, and it all, is very, and I know, Mike, you already know this. It's very logical, very logically laid out. You've incorporated prime land so that there's not a county island there, which is great. So, yeah, that's great plan.
Can I make a motion?
Sure you can.
Okay, I move that we approve the annexation ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that it be read by title and published by summary.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion on this one? Okay. Haley?
Aye.
Julia?
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Gina?
Aye.
Bryce?
Aye.
Okay, this is 2024- Ordinance number 2024-18, an ordinance of the City of Moscow, a municipal corporation of the State of Idaho, providing that the land described in Section 2 of this ordinance and generally shown on Exhibit A attached hereto and incorporated by this reference be annexed into the City of Moscow, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law. Cool. Onward.
I like providing the provisions. That makes me laugh. Okay, I'll make another motion.
Spiffy.
I move that we approve the annexation, wait a minute, that since we have approved the annexation ordinance, that we approve the proposed comprehensive land use designation
I think
resolution.
we're skipping one.
Where do we have to go to?
We have to go to number 2.
I'm
Yeah,
reading
she's on number 2.
She's right at number 2.
Okay, go for it.
Mr. Mayor,
No kidding.
oh, it wasn't, it was a love tap.
Violence is not the
Okay, I move that we approve the proposed comprehensive land use ordinance designation resolution and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission's reasoned statement of relevant criteria.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, Julia,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Gina.
Aye.
Okay, onwards.
You're rolling,
Do you
just
want
go
me to
with it.
No, I'll do it, and I promise not to hit the mayor this time. Okay, since we've done the annexation ordinance and approved the comprehensive land use designation resolution, I move that we approve the proposed zoning ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that it be read by title and published by summary.
Second.
Would you like to include the adoption of the reason statement rule and criteria on that one as well?
Adopt the planning.
Yes, yes. Okay, so what I would like to do is the whole thing, and, do I have to read it again?
Nope, you can say and adopt the planning.
And adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission's reasoned statement of relevant criteria.
Second.
Okay,
Good Lord.
yeah, I know, there's lots of words here. Okay, Bryce,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Gina.
Aye.
Right. You're on a roll, Gina.
Okay,
Oh, no, I've got to
you got to
read
read
this sucker.
something. Good.
I guess we're on number 19. Ordinance 2024-19. An ordinance of the City of Moscow, Idaho, a municipal corporation of the State of Idaho, providing for the rezoning of a 51.53 acre property described in Section 2 from motor business and agricultural forestry to motor business, providing that provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law. There's that one.
Okay,
And these are all in caps, by the way. Makes reading them,
not a whole
Interesting.
lot easier. I had whereases last time.
if it's going to be like emails and things like that, I should probably shout because they're all in caps. So,
So, Your Honor,
please,
I move that we
save me.
approve, since we've done all these things so far, I move that we approve the preliminary plat for Somo Edition with 2 conditions and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission's reasoned statement of relevant criteria and direct staff to prepare a reasoned statement of relevant criteria.
Second.
That last section is unnecessary. If you're adopting the.
There
planning-
was an and. Okay, so
sounded
not
good,
the
though.
last part.
Okay,
Still a second.
thank you. Julia,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
Gina,
Yes.
Haley,
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
Okay, great. After that lengthy exercise in the English language, sort of, we move on to the West Palouse River Drive Site Study Agreement. Bill? And thank you, Mike.
Also, I'm happy, Haley, that you chimed in about SOMO, because I was thinking that.
I was trying to
Yeah.
sound it out myself. I'll
so-
admit that.
Got it. It's great.
No, I just was like, if I'm voting yes, I want to make sure that it's actually like.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. A little bit of background on this item. As I think the council's aware, the school district has been discussing the potential need to construct a new elementary school sometime in the near future. In discussions between city and school district staff, we have discussed the potential of that school being located on the city's West Palouse River Drive property that could be developed with a combination of a new elementary school as well as additional athletic fields and other park facilities and improvements. You may recall the city acquired that property. It's approximately 44-acre property in the early 2000s with the idea of developing it for additional athletic play fields. During kind of the planning stages that occurred between acquisition and running up to about 2009, the city kind of identified what we anticipated the development of that property to take, the expenses, and it was ultimately deemed to be too costly at that point in time There's no access to the property. There'd be roadway extension, bridge construction, utilities, as well as the field development. And ultimately, the city decided it was not feasible. We then went back and partnered again with the school district to develop what is now the Moscow Community Playfields project on the Joseph Street property, which met, a fair portion of the community's needs for athletic fields, but there still are some that are still yet to be fulfilled. So the concept is here that this might be a opportunity for the city and the school district to jointly develop the property, or at least explore joint development of the property for both school uses as well as park and athletic fields on that site. Earlier this year, the city and the district entered into a MOU where we both jointly agreed to mutually fund an exploratory study to determine whether this would be beneficial to both the city and the district. We have worked with LCA Lombard Conrad Architects to prepare a scope of work for professional services to do this conceptual site study. LCA was recently selected by the school district as one of their selected architects to provide the district with architectural services, so there'd be some continuity should this move forward into additional phases of development for the site. Scope has been prepared, really is to look at a couple different options of how could a school be sited on the property, looking at parking and circulation and access and parent drop-off and bus transportation, and as well as then what additional playfields and athletic facilities could be developed on the site. So just kind of familiarize folks with the property. This is the property here shown on the screen that the city currently owns, highlighted there in blue. This kind of shows its condition to date. So we now have access with the city's partnership or contribution to the Eddington development to the south. Conestoga has been extended across the South Fork with a new bridge. And so really the property would be focusing on really everything on the south side of the river. That would be the location that a school would probably be best suited for. So we would anticipate if a new school is sited, it'd be located probably in that southeast corner. Gets it kind of the highest elevation, closest proximity to the roadway for access, and outside of the areas that are designated floodplain areas that we would see flooding that would happen occasionally. The base fee underneath the agreement is $34,000, up to $2,000 reimbursable expenses. That cost would be split equally between the city and district. Of that $34,000, there is a $10,000 kind of civil engineering reserve. Should there be any details or questions that we think we need to bring in an outside civil engineer to answer, that would be available. That would only be used at the city's authorization and approval. So the base services for the exploratory study really are about $24,000 that would be shared equally between the district and the city. And I just said that. This, again, would be exploratory study, so it's not binding us or the district in any future action. It's just allowing us the time to take a look at the sites, see how we could accommodate both the district and the city's needs, if we can on the site, and then that'll help inform future decisions by both the city and the district. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
I just have one, as always. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bill, I just need a refresher because I'm trying to remember, we voted on something previously. Was that just to approve the RFQ process? And now this, I feel like this is a second time that this sort of news is coming before us. So.
Sure. Yeah, so the first item we approved, as I mentioned, was the MOU between the district and the city to do this study. Okay. Now this is a contract with the consultant to
do the study. Okay. Cool, thanks. That's all I got. Cobwebs. Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the proposed professional services agreement with Lombard Conrad Architects Incorporated.
Second.
Okay, no further discussion. Gina?
Aye.
Bryce?
Aye.
Julia?
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Haley?
Aye.
Very good, so that goes too. Okay, that takes us to the end of the numbered items. We're on to reports. We had a week off last week because it was the fifth Monday. So let's start with reports. Gina?
I have nothing.
Oh. Wow.
No, nothing from the tree commission, nothing.
But you still love trees.
I still love my trees, yes,
Okay.
wholeheartedly.
Sandra, leap into it.
Was that like a leaf joke?
It
was a leaf joke, that's awesome.
Thank you very much. I'm excited that I have two things coming up this week, and I thought, did I do anything? And then I looked back at my notes, and yes, I did have some things. I do believe, since we met last I don't think I've talked about the 1912 development meeting that we had. I feel like it was 3.5 weeks ago. And I'm very excited about that. Met with, the 1912 folks, the board. David was here, but he's taken off. He was there. Our fire folks were there they're really honing in on the last aspects of that third floor. We talked a lot. While most people don't find it fascinating, I do. We talked about bathrooms, and we talked about walls to store tables, and we talked about moving a wall and then moving it back, and HVAC systems, and everything is looking good. Fire didn't have any issues, which was nice. Looks like things are ready to roll, and I know that the 1912 folks are putting fundraising together so they can get that going. But it was fun to see. It's really great when you see the plans start really just big and open, and now, all the little boxes are together, and you're about to win the Tetris game, and it's fun. So I was really excited about that. We had PBAC, and I know other folks were there, so I won't talk about all of it, but it was great to see. And we missed it last year for various reasons. And so it was nice to be able to stay for the whole event. And what really stood out to me, a lot of things stood out, but what really got to me was our speaker kind of had to change his talk a little bit because he was so happy about all that we've been doing. Like he had written a book, and it was sort of a how-to on how to conserve and what do aquifers do and don't, and how can we be better. And he's like, of course we can always be better, but he was really taken aback by all the work from Palouse Prairie Charter School. It had a great presentation that their students are working on, to other groups all around, and the little things that different entities are doing throughout our whole area, and how we're working to make this a go, and how the communities work together. We had a really great presentation by, and I'm sorry I can't remember the person's name from Pullman, but our own Kelly Cooper and her counterpart in Pullman, and the things you do to work together. And it was really great to see someone just go, wow, you're doing the things that I talked about, and I don't really know what to talk on right now. And he did, but it was a nice moment. And we were up at SEL at their event center, which was a really nice place to be, and it was packed. So that was great, and I left a few things for my other friends that were there to chat about. And let's see here. Sorry, got to get my readers. Homecoming was great. I love homecoming. I had the best time. I just had the best time. Bryce and I and the mayor got to ride upon a giant 2-story helmet and toss candy to the crowd, and the city, I don't know my machines, but the big giant thing with the scooper pulled us. And it was great.
That is the
Technical
technical
term.
name
Thank you,
for
it
it.
is a
Yeah.
technical term,
Technical
yes.
terms.
The H2 5000 scooper machine pulled us. And it was great to see everybody. People were excited. It was a pleasant day. It wasn't raining or
Gorgeous.
snowing or hot. It was great. The breakfast at the fire department was great. My sausages were perfect, not too burnt, but just the right kind of burnt, which I really appreciate. And had a really fun game of catch with the small person that had gotten one of the bling balls that they had out. So the mayor was also there. So we played a little catch with this little young person, which was a hoot. And then the game was fun. I got to make an appearance tailgating and go to the game, and we won, which was, how often does that happen, right? If you look at the whole history, not often. So that was fun. It was a really beautiful day and fun for homecoming. I thought the floats were great, and just a really enjoyable time that started off with a great breakfast by our volunteer fire department. I'm sure I missed something, but that feels pretty good for now.
Cool. Julia, what you got?
Well, SCC was canceled this month, Sustainable Environment Commission, or this September, I guess it's October now. But we did have Farmers Market Commission this month, and always good, hardworking folks at the Farmers Market Commission, but things that are coming up the last Saturday in October, so October 26th. Remember, it is the costume contest. You can enter your littles, you can enter your grandma, as long as they're, dressed up like something from the farmer's market. That's pretty exciting. That's the fun end to the farmer's market season. They're also starting the planning process for the 50th anniversary of our farmer's market, which will officially be in 2026. So, but that's really starting to happen, and I'm really excited to celebrate the 50th year of our farmers market. So that'll be fun. Also, of course, had Public Works and Finance, U of I homecoming, just lots of fun things happening this fall. That's it for me.
Haley?
Let's see, in order. Got to go to the 2024 Boris Symposium where the former Costa Rican president, who's like barely 40 years old, talked about some of the really cool things that they've been doing for the energy transition, and so really enjoyed that opportunity. Also caught one of the Renfrew colloquiums. It was really well attended considering it was a lunchtime thing in the library just right off the entrance on the U of I campus. And it was all about relational research and indigenous futures. It's given, Rula was there, as was Steve Daly Larson, who serves on the county's Human Rights Task Force, but I think we all kind of exchanged some looks, and there's some cool ideas that I'm hoping to see maybe bubble up from the Human Rights Commission. Yeah, parade was fun. Moskoverfest was great. Lots of really fun activities like personalizing cookies, gingerbread cookies and stuff. Homecoming was great. And then, I was able to catch part of the American Planning Association segment. That's the Idaho chapter that Bill had forwarded us. There was it was a 3-day event from people all over the state, and the morning 4 hours was kind of a refresher. It's something that we don't regularly talk about in workshops, but it was really cool to get to see people from Rupert and Jerome and Beauville all learn from each other's questions. And there's a couple of book recommendations that I'm happy to send your way that are from the American Planning Association, but that was a really cool exercise. And then city-county breakfast, city-county university sheriff's school district breakfast was great last week. And the last thing I'll say is I confirmed with the county that you can early vote at the courthouse October 21st through November 1st if you don't do your absentee ballot request. So just looking ahead, doing some early voting stuff, and yeah, it feels like October's already over, so that's great. That's what I got.
Bryce?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to echo much of what's been said up here, but I'm happy to do so because it's been a lively 3 weeks since we've last met, having that surprising fifth Monday off last week. And I'm going to go in order. So the same night as our last council meeting on September 16th, which was followed the next day by the Human Rights Commission. We were mainly kind of talking about the night before, which was the 16th, on United Against Hate from the 1912 Center. And that was really, really well attended. I wasn't able to stay the whole time. I know that Sandra filled in for the mayor that night and was able to stay the whole time, but I was there for about 45 minutes. And I was really impressed just with, the attendance and the interest in the topic and the interest in continuing to make Moscow an inclusive community. And then on the 17th, we had Human Rights Commission. Also that night on September 17th, I went to the Moscow Chamber of Commerce for the Welcome Social for their next cohort of Leadership Moscow, which is a year-long class that members from the community sign up for to learn how to hone in on their leadership skills. So I was there to just chat and kind of hear about people's interests and hear about what they're excited for in the course. And it was neat to show up, neat to say hey. Planning and zoning was canceled at the end of the month. That was okay. And then, as a couple of us had stated, Oktoberfest is one of my favorite days of the year in Moscow, and this was pretty neat. So I teach at the University of Idaho, and one of my constant things that I say to my students is get to know the town you live in. And so that week leading up to Oktoberfest, I kept hyping it up. And I was like, even if you're not 21, I guarantee you're going to have a good time. And as I was kind of strolling around, I saw a handful of students. And they're like, we're only here because you said that it would be cool, and it's cool. And I was like, all right, cool. And I had a couple students, and one of them was like, this will be more fun when I'm 21. And I was like, I think it probably will be, but I'm still glad you came down.
There were lots of activities.
And then, along with Sandra, went to the Palouse Basin Aquifer Committee Summit last Tuesday, and Sandra did a great job summarizing that. One thing that I thought was really cool is I think the teacher from Palouse Prairie was Andrika, is that correct? And she had brought some students with her, I think all age 6th to 8th grade, and they all stood up there behind her, but had worked on this project about a water footprint and things that they had learned from the book of the keynote speaker. And it just was a cool collaborative moment. And then a couple of audience members asked questions, and it put these little 7th graders on the spot, and it was very endearing. It was a very nice moment. But it's great to see youngsters it's great to see young people in the community being interested in paying attention to water issues, especially even as David had mentioned, paying close attention to our aquifer. So it was really encouraging. Last two things. Homecoming was a blast. I had so much fun throwing candy.
You've got a good arm. You were hitting those people in the back of the crowd.
I felt good about that, actually. There were people that were on the, not just right in front, and I was like, I'm gonna get you a Kit Kat, and checked it out there.
Over the head of the kids?
Yeah, but also the kids.
The kids had plenty.
The kids.
The kids had plenty. I promise you.
I was trying to share it all around, and I even think I was able to throw a bar at Dean Eccles in the middle of the table. So I think he caught it, and I felt really good about that.
No eyes were put out.
No, yeah, and go.
I did almost being a kid in a stroller. It was really.
Thinking about those helmets now.
Yeah, and yeah, go Vandals as always. It was great to see the Kibbe Dome pretty much sold out. It was awesome, and great energy in there. And then the last thing is that tomorrow morning I'm also going to go down to the Downtown Business Association meeting at the Chamber. We're all invited, where Kate Simmons from Lift Local Idaho is going to give a presentation about local option sales tax to local business owners and local businesses in the community. And I'm very excited to hear what she has to say, and I'm very excited for our local businesses to hear what she has to say as well. So it's been a busy 3 weeks, and now we're cruising in my favorite month. October is my favorite month.
Go Royals.
Go Royals. I haven't checked the score. They were up 4-1 when I came into council tonight in the 7th inning, and I am on pins and needles to see how.
Bill's checking.
So.
Well, we're glad you sacrificed your time to show up. Anyway, so it was a busy little while because we skipped the last Monday of the month. So this dates clear back to the middle of September. Went to D.C. along with Mayor Benjamin from Pullman and Tony Bean, the airport manager. And we went and paid visits to Senators Crapo, Risch, Murray, Cantwell, and Representative McMorris Rogers, discussing some issues of local concern. So one was to say thanks for the airport help that they all provided us, where we emerged with a $250 million facility for a local match of $18 million, which is a pretty darn good trade and no debt on that facility at all. Also kind of prepared them about alternate water supplies that we're going into, along with PBAC and the rest of the water group that's here in the region, finding our alternate water supply, launching into a 10% design for right-of-way and potential cost for that project. So mostly alerting them for that, and lobbying a bit for congressional assistance in obtaining a metropolitan statistical area designation, which is a super wonky thing, but it would definitely help elevate our economy, enhance flights to the airport, provide us direct access to federal funds for transit, both intra and interstate, and really, I'd like to push very hard on that one. Met with a Korean economic team that came through town, sat down and had a discussion with them that was very, very good. Airport board meeting, things are going forward with finding a concessionaire at the airport. So finally, there can be coffee at 5 o'clock in the morning, please. Let's see, we had the Water Summit, as has been indicated. Had the pleasure of being the one to assist in opening that conference going. Moskoberfest, always great. Good weather for that one, too.
It was good weather.
Really good. Had our bi-monthly meeting where we get to get all of the inside scoop on what's going on with the county and the university. I spoke for a half an hour at the beginning of the American Planning Association meeting here, which was, I was thinking, 5 minutes, I said, okay, cool, I can, welcome to Moscow, spend money, thank you. But it turned out they said, you're up for half an hour. And, oh my God.
Spend a lot of money.
Yeah, so, that's amazing. Also met with the Idaho Gives people who are looking for some support in next year's big push to enhance nonprofit status and get them some more money. And followed that up with a transportation review for regional transportation, and hosted by Eileen Clegg, former counselor down in Boise. And so she's pushing strongly for down south, but at least stop by here to hear what our feelings are on our transportation needs. Very good. And of course, homecoming, always fun going down the street, and what a crowd. It was excellent. So, anything from over there?
No, I've got some staff.
Mr. Mayor, do you need a motion to adjourn to executive session?
Yes, I was just going to call for a motion to adjourn to executive session per Idaho Code 74-206, 1B and 1F.
Second.
After that, the meeting will not reconvene, so at that point, the regular meeting is finished, and the council will have to conduct some business up here yet.
So,
Moved and seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Your Honor,
Okay.
I think we need a roll call vote for executive session.
do?
Yes, please.
Haley?
Haley Lewis is an aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Gina?
Aye.
Julia?
Aye.
Bryce?
Aye.
There we go. Got it. Okay, thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.